Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Excited to have you all here. I'm Eric Sprov. I am an engineering manager at Plaid, and I lead the credit group. Today, with me, I have Hamedo, who comes to us from PadSplit, a affordable housing marketplace. Before that, he worked at Capital One Labs, started his own fitness startup, looking very fit and everything, love it. And then also taught social studies in English, which is also a pretty cool, diverse background. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about PadSplit and some of the work you guys do and how you've used Plaid. The PadSplit mission sounds really exciting and really important as well. You mind telling us a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. And thanks for the really nice intro. I forget that I used to teach. That's a long time ago. So PadSplit is on a mission to solve the affordable housing crisis audaciously, and we want to do that while leveraging housing as a vehicle for financial empowerment. Like you said, we run an affordable housing marketplace. So from like a product standpoint, from the outside, it kind of looks like Airbnb or other.
For that demographic, it's probably very empowering and probably opens up a lot of possibilities as well. What are some of those possibilities?
So what do we use? We don't use credit scores. What do we use instead? The primary thing that we use is income, specifically recent income, and we look at recurring income. And that's what we work with Plaid about, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And this sort of boils down to something really simple. We believe that if you have a credit score, it's this black box number that accrues over your entire life. And we instead look at income and recent income. So we believe that the best predictor of your ability to pay rent next week is the amount of money you earned last week and this week. And so we really focus on recent income. And we look to make sure it's recurring and things like that and how long you've had this income source. But really it's about recent income, and that's what we care about. And that's one of the primary drivers for our credit underwriting.
I mean, from the outside, it looks, makes a lot of sense. How much you make is probably how much you can pay for your rental, and it really is a strong indicator likely of that. So let's dig into the flow a little bit and talk about how you guys gather that info and how that plays into your whole application flow.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you, to move into one of our homes in PadSplit, you first have to become approved as a member. And so what does that look like? You come onto our site, you check out our housing marketplace, you find a home that works for you. Already, you have options, and that's different. That's like our first value prop. You're on our site, and you can choose from a number of places, which is often not the case for the people we're serving. And then, when you find a home you're interested in, you can start our membership application process. And there's sort of like three parts to it. The first part is you give us some contact information, some personal information from you, really basic stuff, name, address, phone number, SSN. We use those inputs to verify your identity and run a background check. And this is to reduce some of the obvious kinds of risk, member-to-member risk in our co-living homes, and some other like obvious kinds of risk. Then after we verify and approve an identity, we then move on to income verification, where we work with you all. And from an income verification standpoint, we offer 4 different methods. We'll talk a little bit more about what those methods are in a little bit. I think we have a slide for that. And that's the membership application process.
Awesome. Sounds like a fairly, straightforward process. I'm sure there's probably some difficulties you kind of have to dig through. Any of those?
It all sounds so easy, when you just list it. Anyone who's done product work or any sort of operations work knows that it's never this easy. So there's a lot of challenges. When I first started working at PadSplit and getting involved in member approval income verification, I thought it would be as easy as asking, how much money do you make? What is your income? The user says, I make X. And you say, can you prove that, please? And then they say, yes, here's my documentation. And you're stamp it. It's like, please move into your home. Here are the keys. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Maybe in story it works like that, but there's a ton of edge cases, and there's a ton of nuance, and there's a ton of unhappy paths. So first things first, the asking for how much income is the easy part. It's the verification of that. And so there's a number of different ways you can verify an income if we're talking about manual verification first. So you might have a W-2, and that communicates a certain set of data to us as a company. You might have a pay stub. You might have an earnings statement from Uber or Lyft or from a gig economy platform. You might have a social security or disability letter from the government. You might have a bank statement. The list goes on. Those are some of the 5 more common ones. There's a number of other ways you can signal or communicate your income and try to verify it with us. For each of those different document types, there's different data on there. There's different risks associated with them. There's different verification like steps that are involved. And so that's already the first sort of like box of complexity. And then there's a lot of stuff after that. So that's, once we receive the document, that's what we do. But we first have to get the document. So there's like upload requirements. There's image quality, like sort of challenges sometimes at play. We can't verify we can verify a document, but if it doesn't have your name on it, it's not useful to us. We need to know that income on this document is attached to your identity, and if that's not there, we have to enter this ping pong match that takes multiple days where we ask for the document, you send us a document, we review the document, we say to you, actually, your name's not on here, will you please upload it again, or will you please find a different document, we don't accept this type. Then they have to then, they might be at work, they might be, doing whatever they're doing in their life, and they have to go find these documents. They have to go back home. They have to go look in storage. They have to go online. They have to figure out a login. So there's a lot of steps. It's not always this complicated, but it can be. There's a lot of this nuance. And so when designing an income verification program, we have to think about all of these things. We have to think about all of these steps. And so, I could keep going on and on. Like the challenges and complexities are abundant, and I guess that's why we're talking about income verification today, isn't it?
That's what makes it such an interesting problem, right?
Totally,
very impactful
Makes
problem.
me very grateful to your team.
Yeah. That sounds like a pretty brutal process too, that back and forth taken, it sounds like potentially several days, anywhere up to like 5 days.
Yeah.
I could just imagine waiting 5 days for a home would be pretty scary.
Yeah.
Amanda, and I know we've worked together on this. I'm going to lead you into this. I've heard I know we've reduced that from 5 days down a lot lower. Yeah. How low have we gone?
It's up on the slide, so they know. We can ask them. Yeah. So sort of like the median or sort of like average income verification historically takes 1 to 5 days. One is the happy path. One is you upload. We tell you what document types. You upload the right ones. Boom, everything works. It's like fireworks. We verify it once we get in. Once our ops person is online. But it can take a lot longer, up to 5 days, if there's this ping-ponging back and forth. And with Plaid, we generally just call it instant verification because it usually takes a couple of seconds. We have 3 different income verification methods that we use with Plaid, and so depending on the method, there's different speeds, but for the overwhelming majority of the verifications that we run, it feels instant. It takes a couple of seconds.
Nice. That's a pretty big game changer if you're waiting, for a home and stuff, to kind of have that security that you got somewhere to stay, somewhere to lay your head at night and that type of stuff. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and one more thing on this, like just the importance. So we've talked a little about like how much faster, but I want to at least acknowledge something that's not obvious, and it wasn't obvious to me when I joined the company. It took a long time to really like glean this insight, but speed is extremely, extremely important. Like we're all impatient people in the digital age, whatever, but we're talking about people who are looking for housing. They are in a period of maybe uncertainty. They need confidence. They're on our site not because they are like just browsing. They're often on our site because they're trying to find housing. And so going from 5 days to 60 seconds, it really makes a big difference because if you don't have housing, or if you're housing insecure, or if you're moving to a new city and you're trying to figure out where you're going to live, there is the ground below you is a little bit shaky, and you're looking for certainty, and you're looking to have certainty so you can like live the rest of your life and go to work and do whatever you want to do. And so if we can't verify people quickly, they're going to go find certainty somewhere else. They're going to ask a family member, can I sleep in the basement for a couple more weeks? They're going to go to an extended stay motel that they drive past on the highway, and they're going to say, they're going to pay 2 weeks of rent up front. They're going to go on to Craigslist and hopefully land safe housing, even though some of the times listings are a little bit sketchy. And so the speed is really, it's not just a user experience thing. The speed is like a fundamental value prop. And so just want to acknowledge that.
No, it's a great reminder because it is, housing is a base human need, right? That you have a place, a home that's safe that you can go to and kind of go back for some rest and stuff. So it's very important. Awesome. I know we talked about speed as one of those problems. I know there's a few other problems I think you mentioned too. How has Plaid income and assets helped along those as well?
Yeah, there's a number of ways. So if you check out this slide, there's 4 different verification methods that we do. And when you're designing a workflow, you often maybe don't want 4 different branches, or really not always like the best product situation. But for us, offering different verification methods opens up the door and creates more surface area for access. And so, rewind time maybe 18 months ago, we had one verification method, and it was manual. It was income verification. We asked for docs, you sent us the docs, and we reviewed them, and we did verification. And about a little bit more than a year ago, we added the assets. Bank login is just sort of the easier way to describe it. We use assets, and that has taken us from 100% manual verification. It took us to 30% about a year ago, and now we're edging much higher. And so then we've added these 2 other verification methods with Plaid income. And so this is really fundamentally like about access, and so. Speed really matters from a security and from like a stability and user experience angle, but like actually access, like can I verify my income, and how am I able to do that online is extremely important, because if they can't actually do it, then the speed doesn't matter as well.
Yeah.
And so that's like the other really big problem I see us solving by working with you all and offering different verification types. It unlocks access, to say it simply.
Yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing about income, and one of the things that makes it both a fun and challenging problem is there's so many different ways for people to get paid that it's really important that you have a large, diverse set of ways for people to actually go and verify that income so they can find a method that works for them.
Totally.
Awesome. And I know you guys have seen a lot of success, over the last few years. I hear 3x growth. How have we helped you in that scaling?
Yeah, we raised our Series B like a handful of months ago, so still early, but we're experiencing some growth. I think we 3x in the past year, and I think the year before that it was about 3x. It preceded my time at the company, so don't quote me on the exact numbers. But the interesting thing there is that I mentioned we verified incomes manually, looking at people's documents, and we were doing that with a 1 to 2 person operations team. They're at PadSplit, they're the membership approval team or the membership acquisition team, and they oversee all of anything that can go wrong, and they facilitate they usher people through the process of ID verification primarily, and background checks and income verification. Most of their time is spent on income verification because of the reasons we talked about. And ever since I've been at the company for 18 months, and even before that, we've had this 1 to 2 person team, even though we've 3x'd and 3x'd again, roughly. And so I think it's really remarkable that we haven't had to scale up our ops team. I think, like, for obvious reasons, like it's not always fun and attractive to grow and to recruit, hire, train, enforce quality checks. So there's a magic in being able to have a really small, focused, highly specialized team internally that supports manual income verification, and they're there to address some of the more difficult edge cases. And I love that we have them there, and scaling with Plaid has allowed them to really stay focused and drive value in that way.
Awesome. That's great, helping them scale. I think we have also talked a little bit about freeing up some time for them too.
Oh, yeah, we were joking, earlier today we were talking, the primary person on this team that I'm referring to, his name is Sinan. I think he might be out of the office now for the first time in an extremely long time. He told me he was taking a vacation for the first time in an extremely long period, and he's going to Cyprus for a bachelor party, so hopefully he's having fun. But this guy, he set up his day to respond to when people apply or when people send us income verification docs. So he's working night times, he's working early mornings, and he'll sometimes sleep in the middle of that. Sometimes he's working on weekends when there's some seasonality to our business, so sometimes he's working weekends. And so I think he's very grateful to your team for allowing him to take a vacation for the first time in a while.
Awesome. Well, I hope he enjoys his time in Cyprus and has a good bachelor party. Not too much fun, but awesome. And I think that speaks towards the importance of the work too, that folks are that engaged and really structuring. And so, it's very exciting to hear that Plaid's been able to help scale and serve that many more people via that scaling. So with so much scaling, what's next for PadSplit? What do you foresee in the future?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think as a company, I'll sort of start at that level. We're a housing marketplace. Our product exists in real life. Even though we're the sort of the software side of that, but the way people experience our product, they experience it in real life. So we're a geographic specific marketplace. We have a really tremendous amount of growth in our home base, which is Atlanta, and we've launched a handful of other markets recently. So we launched a couple cities in Florida, we launched a couple cities in Texas, we've launched a couple other smaller markets as well. And so for us, as a company, that's the next phase of sort of growth for us, is hitting that product market fit and hitting our stride in new markets. And so that requires, from like a product standpoint, like some humility and kind of humbleness, because our users are different in different locations. Housing is different in different places. Like you live in San Francisco, I live in New York.
Yeah.
Housing is different in these two places, very, very different. And so we have to, go through this process of learning and sort of doing our research, understanding these new markets, understanding new users, opening ourselves up to potential new user segments. So as it relates to income verification, there's some interesting things here where historically we have not served a lot of students, but in one of our new markets, we've seen a lot of student interest. And underwriting income, or verifying income and underwriting housing risk for students is very different from doing it for someone who has like W-2 income and gets paid biweekly, or even someone who like works for Lyft and they can get paid every day or every week. And so underwriting for students, new terrain for us. We're evaluating that right now. And there's other complicated earner types, people with variable income, people with seasonal jobs, stuff like that we're interested in. And hopefully we get to figure that out together with you guys.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to partnering together, and I know it's a challenge set. We're pretty eager to work with you and get that 70% up even higher.
We want to get it to 100, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Eventually get it to 100, cover all of it. Then he can take a really long time in Cyprus next time with this partner. Awesome. And then for all the fellow product and engineer folks in the room who might be looking for tips or maybe some advice, what's 2 or 3 things you'd give them advice when building new products and trying to help them grow? Yeah,
so we were talking before this started. We were talking about growth, because you've been in a growth role in your prior life, and so I think at a general level, unless we want to dive into some like specific industries or something like that, the advice I would offer is just sort of like the 101 stuff as it relates to product and growth, which is one, growth is really, like we talked about this, it's a hypothesis-driven like line of work, and so you have to measure everything, you have to set hypotheses, and you have to run most things as experiments. That's the way you really unlock growth. And then, so that's like bucket 1. Data, growth, experimentation. I guess the other buckets are like going to the primary source. And so one of the things that really humbled me when I came to PadSplit was quote unquote like dog fooding with Sinan and the ops team, and learning how they actually do income verification. Because when I joined the company, I was like, oh, Plaid has a second service. Let's just use that, and that will solve all of our problems. We'll go from 30% to 100%. It'll be easy of instant verifications, and there's a lot more nuance there. And so go to the primary source is like a thing I think about. So that meant for me figuring out how our team actually does income verification manually. That meant getting to know our product on a more intimate level. That meant just talking to users is like an obvious thing. Like talk to your users, talk to them more. You might feel like you know your users, but your user demographic might change over time. And then, I think that's most of my advice. The last thing I'll share is something that I really believe, and maybe others don't believe this, but something I really believe is that you should always pursue. I think in a different talk that I think the CTO talked about 70-20-10. I think most of the time you should be pursuing the no-brainer, obvious value props. And no matter what the product is, even if you're in government, no matter what your industry is, the no-brainer value props. And the no-brainer value props to me are cost or price, it's quality, it's access, and it's speed. If you do these 4 things, if you're deciding what should we build, what should we invest in, how can we improve, if you're not considering things in these 4 buckets, then you're probably not investing in the right parts of your business, and you're probably not going to grow as fast as you can. And so, for me, like I love to just true back to what are the no-brainer value props that if we do them well, the users will like it. And so, I think that's the extent of my 101 advice for growth.
That's some great advice for the room. Hopefully everyone enjoys it as well. Well,
cool.
Thank you for joining us today, Hamedo. I at least enjoyed it. I think everyone else did, hopefully. And
Cool.
Looking forward to working together with you more.
Cool. Thank you.